Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to explore the actual architecture of your own brain. Let's dive right into Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman's groundbreaking work on the unconscious, automatic forces that are actually driving our seemingly rational decisions. Kahneman's research basically reveals there's a wild psychodrama happening inside your head every single day. Our minds are essentially a battleground between two totally distinct characters. But before we formally meet them, I really want to test your brain with a simple, pretty famous math problem. Okay, are you ready? Quickly now, don't overthink this. A bat and a ball cost $1.10. The bat cost exactly $1 more than the ball. What number just popped into your head for the cost of the ball? I'm gonna guess 10 cents is what just popped into your head. And look, if it did, don't worry. It's a highly intuitive, incredibly appealing, and totally wrong answer. In fact, over 50% of students at Harvard and MIT gave this exact same incorrect answer. Let's actually break down the math for a second here. If the ball is 5 cents and the bat is $1.05, which is exactly $1 more, they total $1.10. So the correct answer is 5 cents. Why do so many literally brilliant people get this wrong? Well, the answer lies in that cast of characters operating inside your head right now. Meet System 1, our impulsive, fast-acting hero. It operates automatically with absolutely zero effort and really no sense of voluntary control. System 2, on the other hand, is our deliberate, logical controller. But here's the kicker. System 2 is profoundly lazy. It often just blindly endorses System 1's quick, intuitive guesses, like assuming the ball costs 10 cents, simply to save some mental energy. Now, System 1 handles the easy stuff, like realizing someone is angry or adding 2 plus 2. But what happens if I ask you to solve a complex problem, like 17 multiplied by 24? Suddenly, your lazy System 2 is forced to wake up. It requires active, focused attention. If we were measuring you right now, your pupils would actually dilate, your heart rate would increase, and you'd experience a literal mental sprint. You can practically feel the gears turning in your head. And this internal battle isn't just about math. It happens with our vision, too. When you look at these two horizontal lines, your System 1 automatically and immediately tells you the bottom line is longer. You don't consciously decide to see it that way. It just happens to you. But here is the catch. The horizontal lines are actually identical in length. Even after your logical System 2 steps in, measures them, and explicitly learns they are perfectly equal, you can't help but still see the bottom one is longer. You can choose to believe the measurement, sure, but System 1 still generates the illusion. It proves this fascinating point. We are continuously, completely blind to our own cognitive illusions. Let's try one more quick test to create a literal conflict in your brain. If you try to declare the physical position of the words in the second column, like saying right or left out loud, instead of reading the actual text of the words themselves, you're going to feel a highly noticeable cognitive strain. Why? Because your System 2 is intensely fighting System 1's automatic, deeply ingrained urge to just read the word. This constant mental friction leads to what psychologists call ego depletion. It turns out that cognitive effort and self-control draw from a shared, finite pool of mental energy. It's actually tied directly to your physical brain glucose levels. Think of your willpower like a literal battery on your smartphone. Throughout the day, as you use it, it steadily drains. So this means that resisting a chocolate chip cookie, stifling your emotions during a sad movie, or making complex choices all drain the exact same mental pool you need to solve logical problems later on. And the signs of this depletion are severe. When that battery runs low, you quit tasks earlier, you overspend, and you even make more selfish choices, simply because your System 2 is just too tired to supervise your behavior properly. And hey, this isn't just some abstract academic theory. It has massive, real-world consequences. Consider highly trained parole judges in Israel. Researchers tracked their rulings throughout the entire day. Right after a food break, parole approvals spike to a lenient 65%. But as the judges experience ego depletion over the next 2 hours, approvals steadily drop, hitting nearly 0% just before the next meal. They unwittingly default to the easier, safer position of denying parole simply because they're hungry and tired. It turns out being hangry has massive legal consequences. Definitely keep that in mind before scheduling an important meeting right before lunch. Kahneman sums it up perfectly here. When our System 2 is exhausted or busy, System 1 takes the wheel. And because System 1 is so highly impulsive and automatic, it leaves us incredibly vulnerable to invisible influences floating around in our environment. This brings us to a mind-blowing psychological phenomenon known as associative priming. Let me show you just how powerful priming really is. In an astounding demonstration known as the Florida effect, college students were asked to unscramble words associated with old age, words like bald, gray, or wrinkle. Then, they were just asked to walk down a hallway. Incredibly, the students who read the elderly words walked significantly slower than the control group. The mere idea of old age unconsciously primed their physical behavior without them ever noticing.
And this unconscious associative machine is shockingly specific. In another study, people were induced to tell a lie. Those who lied verbally over the phone subsequently showed a subconscious preference to buy mouthwash, but those who typed a lie in an email, they reached for hand soap. Feeling that your soul is stained literally triggers a desire to cleanse the specific body part involved in the sin, a phenomenon dubbed the Lady Macbeth effect. It's absolutely wild.
We even see this real-world priming in completely mundane places, like an office kitchen at a British university. For years, people paid for their tea and coffee by dropping money into a little honesty box. Researchers secretly alternated the banner printed about the price list week by week. One week it showed flowers, and the next week it showed a pair of staring eyes.
The results are completely staggering. People contributed almost 3 times as much money during the weeks the poster showed staring eyes compared to the flower weeks. This proves that a purely symbolic, unconscious reminder that we are, quote-unquote, being watched subconsciously prods us into better behavior, entirely bypassing our conscious awareness.
So, how do we actually use all this? Well, Kahneman wants to equip us with a rich vocabulary for what he calls informed gossip at the water cooler. Because we are hopelessly blind to our own biases and cognitive illusions, it's actually much easier to spot the cognitive errors of our peers. If we can recognize when a colleague is suffering from ego depletion or being primed by their environment, we can make better, more objective decisions as a group. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a pretty provocative thought to ponder about your own autonomy. If our lazy System 2 is constantly rubber stamping the impulses of System 1, and System 1 is continuously being steered by invisible cues, visual illusions, and depleted energy levels, who is really making the decisions in your life? Keep that in mind the next time you think you're making a purely rational choice. Thanks so much for joining me.